Well, I'm overhauling the entire desert in just 2 weeks. For years, other biomes got their updates, but what about the desert? 6 years ago, we almost had it in Minecon Earth, but it wasn't chosen. So today, I'm giving it the update it deserves, but we've got a few problems. I've never modded before, and I'm on a tight deadline. The only thing I've got is a bit of Java experience. Will I be able to pull this off? Before we dive into changing the actual desert, let's be honest, deserts can look pretty dull. I knew I needed to make some visual changes to bring this biome to life, so I decided to tweak the water and sky colors to make everything pop a bit more. Deserts are dangerous places, but when you're a kid, nothing is scarier than quicksand. It's that one thing you always imagine getting stuck in. Turns out, the real danger was trying to mod this without breaking everything. I followed Cap and Joe's tutorials to get started because, well, I had no idea how to mod. And after 2 days of studying, I thought I was ready. I made a simple sand block, and by copying the mechanics of Powder Snow, it had all the attributes I needed. Then, all I needed to do was retexture it to blend in perfectly with the sand. When it came to adding new blocks, I was inspired by something familiar. You know when you're at the beach, and if you dig deep enough, the sand turns darker and harder? That's where the darker sand block came from. And honestly, I just don't like the way sandstone looks in Minecraft, so I made this darker block to add something a bit more visually appealing. When I tried to make brick variants for the darker sand block, things went a bit sideways. I started off retexturing pixel by pixel, but the colors were way off. Instead of looking like good-looking building blocks, it looked like, well, something you'd never want in your Minecraft build. Then I found a Blockbench plugin that creates color palettes for you, and it completely saved me. Even though getting used to Blockbench and finding the solution already cost me a whole day, I went from struggling for hours to finally nailing the look in a few clicks. And to top it all off, I added a sand slab for decoration purposes. It's the little details that make it all feel more alive. The Desert Pyramid has always been a mystery. It can't be the villagers who built these grand structures because the building blocks and architectural style are completely different from what you'd find in their villages. And it definitely wasn't the pillagers. So who could it be? Now, it's time to reveal their true purpose. According to ancient texts, these pyramids were not just burial sites, but served as gateways to the underworld. I'll admit, I added this nether lore because the wither skeleton sounds fit perfectly with the new mob I created. This will all make sense later on the video. I promise. The stories say a great pharaoh king unlocked ancient secrets, much like how we enchant items today. With this power, he could discover bones hidden in the sands and summon a distinct type of skeleton infused with dark magic. To achieve his grand vision, he forced them to build this pyramid, believing it would harness a certain energy to create an unstoppable army to protect his treasures and rule over the sands. But this harnessing energy also caused the pharaoh to be turned into a sphinx, by which he doubled in size and gained tremendous strength. Now, I have to confess, my first attempt at building the pyramid was an epic fail. It looked like a Minecraft building from Wish, definitely not fit for a pharaoh. But after hours of trial and error and staring at my monitor, I realized I could combine elements from existing builds rather than just trying to wing it. That's how I finally managed to create something that doesn't look like a normal triangle. But wait a minute, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, that's it, palm trees. With the pyramid now standing tall, we still need those lush palm trees swaying in the desert breeze. Let's dive into the next chapter and explore how to bring some tropical vibes to this arid environment. Mojang hinted at palm trees in their original desert update plans, but they didn't make the cut. Still, they fit perfectly within the vanilla aesthetic of the game, and let's be honest, everyone loves those tropical vibes. I'm not the best at building by any means, so I followed a tutorial by this person and built some palm trees and an oasis. But then came the hard part, getting them to generate naturally in the game. And I'm already at day 6, so there is not a whole lot of time left. So here's the challenge. I had to figure out how to get these palm trees into the game the quickest way possible. I had no clue how it worked, so I followed Cap and Joe's tutorial again. And it turns out there are 2 different features, place features and structures. Place features can only be generated with code, and generating a palm tree involves math. And let's be real, I'm not exactly a math genius, and I don't have the time to become one as well. So I tried to outsmart Mojang and generate the trees as structures instead. I thought I was the smartest guy ever, but when I loaded into the world, Yeah, the trees spawn on top of the water. At first, I thought this would be an easy fix. All I had to do was find out where Minecraft generates the structures, check if the structure was a tree, and then see if the block below it was water. Easy, right? I knew this could cause lag, but I had to give it a shot. After countless hours of testing and debugging, I kept seeing that the blocks below the structure were air. Even though I was checking the right coordinates, it turns out structures are generated before the blocks load in. Almost ready to throw in the towel, I took a break. While I was doing something else, a light bulb went off. I thought, why not just Google where does water spawn in Minecraft? Turns out, water spawns at a specific Y coordinate, level 63. So I could just check if the structure was 63 or below and prevent it from spawning. And boom, just like that, it was fixed. I was so happy and relieved, even though this problem alone costed me multiple days. Nothing could break my spirit anymore. Or so I thought. There were still problems with generating the oasis. Since it's deeper than the ground level, it ended up spawning 3 blocks above the surface. I thought, okay, let's just take the easy way out and remove the depth of the oasis. But then it hit me. This is an important part. In fact, it's probably our most important part yet, because the desert pyramid I'm making needs to have an underground section too. Otherwise, the pyramid's basement would end up on the surface, which wouldn't really make much sense. As it is a basement after all. But when I tried the same method with the pyramid, it actually worked correctly. The pyramid spawned underground just as I intended, and so, with the palm trees and pyramids in place, all that's actually left is to add a mob and the boss to complete this update. And now it's finally time for the new skeleton mob, the skull crawler. Honestly, my inspiration was running low and I'm running out of time, so I just went with the first idea that popped into my head. I initially thought about adding a mummy, but honestly, the husk already feels like a type of mummy. But then I realized that adding new mobs without extra functionality was a missed opportunity as well. So after some brainstorming, I thought it would be really cool to incorporate the pharaoh lore by having the skullcrawler burrow underground when it drops to half health. Then when it reemerges, it would sprint at you instead of just walking. Imagine this guy running at you at full speed. Like, that's so terrifying. Considering that we were already at the 10-day mark, I have no 3D modeling experience and no animation experience. I had to go online for some inspiration, but once I loaded my creation into the game, it was a different story. Fortunately, it wasn't a big problem, and I was able to fix it pretty easily. It's day 11, and while I don't envision a boss in every biome, I felt the desert biome deserved a formidable challenge, especially with the existing desert temple. So, a pharaoh boss seemed fitting. After brainstorming, I came up with the pharaoh's attacks. I wanted to ensure it wasn't a stable boss battle like the Wither, for example. He has 3 phases, each representing different stages of the boss battle. In the beginning, he fights without a weapon, relying on ancient magic. But as the battle progresses and he drops to 75% health, he retrieves his enchanted sword, a weapon forged in the sands of time. And when his chestplate breaks at 50% health, his fury is unleashed, increasing his attack damage while making him more vulnerable to attacks. The pharaoh's attacks draw inspiration from the pillagers. He can summon skull crawlers, send shockwaves to the ground with his sword, and deflect attacks with his shield effect active. A boss in the desert is not supposed to give you endgame loot in my opinion. Defeating him won't be easy, but those who succeed will be rewarded with an item called a reinforcer. Unlike the typical totem of undying, this item grants temporary invincibility, allowing you to wield the shield effect the boss uses for a short time. I felt like this was not too game-breaking, and it fit right in. And with that, the desert overhaul is complete. I really tried to keep everything within the vanilla style, and I think we went a little bit off script. Honestly, in my opinion, it turned out great, especially for my first mod. But making this mod, I learned so much. It's take a lot of time and effort to make. So if you'd like to support me, feel free to check out my Patreon. You'll even get early access to download the mod there. And if you have any suggestions for future updates or ideas, I'd love to hear them in the comments below.